in racing. It's time to recap it. And who better to do it than Michael and Magic? Two bros/pros who cover the highs and lows of racing around the globe on every one of their shows. Real fans look forward to these guys and their last thoughts, cause they know they're not talking out of their royal ascot. What they say makes sense. So ladies and gents, sit back and relax as Blinkers Off presents The Magic Mike Show, where you hear the experts speak. The Magic Mike Show. Tune into the show every week. The Magic Mike Show. You can trust the show is the bomb because it's being brought to you by RacingDudes.com.
What's up, everybody? I'm Magic.
And I'm Mike.
And this is The Magic Mike Show, episode 190. Mr. Simon, we're getting closer to number 200. It's exciting.
Look at
What's
us.
also exciting, we're live on Facebook, Twitter, Periscope, YouTube. Thanks, everybody, for joining us live to talk about Del Mar. Mr. Simon, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. I feel like we returned a little bit of a corner. It was a little frustrating there early in the Saratoga and the Del Mar season. And Del Mar, felt like we were really close last weekend and had a couple good picks. And Saratoga finally got something home yesterday, so that's nice. And now hopefully we can keep it going into the weekend here and get Del Mar rolling as well. I'm excited about it. I got the whole Saratoga card capped today, too. So I'm going to throw up a late pick 5 grid for the people here for the afternoon Saratoga races. So if you're watching, there's a little sneak peek of what's coming.
Boom. See, this is why it pays to listen and watch live when you can. That's exciting. Yeah, it's interesting. I agree with you where I haven't been capping Saratoga and trying to play it like you have, but both tracks, we've seen them change, and we've talked about that ad nauseum at this point, but the tracks have already changed a month into their season, so not even a month into it. So
3 weeks.
Yeah, it's been interesting to watch it. Well, 2 if you're Del Mar. So
yeah.
It's interesting. I didn't actually realize until yesterday Saratoga's track, the dirt track, is literally new. They changed that entire dirt track for the better. It's the horsemen are praising it. They're saying it's so much safer. It's so much better for their horses. It very closely mimics Aqueduct's main track that they installed not that long ago. So I think that's part of the reason that you've seen a little bit of the change for how Saratoga's main track is playing. Del Mar looks extremely deep and extremely slow. And we have a couple of dirt sprints to talk about today. And I'll be honest, that played a factor into my handicapping.
Yeah, I mean, Del Mar's been interesting. It's been kind of the opposite of what I expected on the dirt. I kind of figured that you really had to be on the lead, and then it was closers for a while. Last weekend, it kind of tended back toward the speed, especially around 2 turns. But I consider both tracks to be fairly fair right now on the main track. I don't think you have to be on the lead. I don't think you need to be off it. I don't think there's a golden rail at Saratoga or vice versa, the dead rail, which is something that's talked about a lot. So I think both tracks play fairly even right now. Obviously, I'm still looking for speed and sprints, and especially 2-turn routes at Saratoga, that 1.8 mile distance. You need to be on or near the lead, or else you're not winning. We've seen that consistently happen at this meet, especially at the lower levels. I mean, it's a stumble fest on the way home, and you're not stumbling by horses usually. Usually, you're just stumbling around in circles. So, still looking for speed in those places, but it has been interesting to see how much the tracks have changed, especially the turf courses at Saratoga and even the turf course at Del Mar over the first 2 or 3 weeks of these meets. It's something you got to kind of try and stay up with, because it's really interesting when you see these horses run 50-second first halves. You got to be able to understand whether or not you need to be close or far back to be able to make moves. And so yesterday was really interesting. If you watch the races, you had Guido, who just ran off and just quit like incredibly quit, like just an amazing quit. And then you had other horses who were running 50s and still quit, but they were getting beat because other horses were too close to them. Whereas Guido just went too fast, too early, and just.
Yeah, well, Guido gonna Guido. That's what happens there. Guido just needs to be a quarter horse at this point. I think if you went to Los Al with that horse, you could probably and he'd still find a way to quit, but at least be a little closer at the end.
He's the fixie bike of the horses, right? He's got one speed. You're tied into those wheels, and what happens. You just go with it. yeah. And if you fight, you can't fight him. You literally just try and hold on and see where he takes you. Hope no one passes him before he tires out.
Exactly. Before we get into things, we're doing the Del Mar late pick 4 sequence on Saturday. Before we get into Mike, what's the best thing you saw this week?
It's the cards coming up this weekend. I mean, the Whitney card is great. I know people are complaining that there's 5 horses in that field, but those 5 horses are the 5 horses you probably want in that field, and the rest would just be kind of cupcakes to kind of come in. So I'm not overly worried about that. And I like the Bing Crosby field. I think this is actually a really interesting race we're going to be talking about. Mackenzie scratching out makes it much more wide open. Although even with Mackenzie in there, I wouldn't have singled Mackenzie.
No.
So I think that is a really nice race there. And then, it's funny, missing that weekend at Del Mar is rough, but man, the fields are amazing. I mean, it's the same thing as last weekend where you had these great fields all up and down the card. So excited to get back to Del Mar. I think you're going to keep seeing logical prices over there, and just excited to see both these tracks going and see everything going well too.
Yeah, it's I'm with you. There's a couple races where one of them being with McKenzie scratching out of Bing Crosby. We'll talk about that a little bit more later. Him being out of there I'm happy because I would have used him defensively, and
Yeah,
that
me
saves
too.
me a bullet. And then the second race, there's 5 also eligibles. Only 9 of the horses are going to run. There's horses in there that I would have used, and I had a hard enough time trimming this ticket down. So I'm actually, for once, a little happy that they're trimming some of this stuff down, just because, these are going to be $120, $30 pick 4 tickets the way I was shaping up to play them. So we at least I got a little bit lucky with that one.
Yeah, I think this is definitely a sequence where you're going to have to come back on the Twitter and check us out to see what the final tickets are. Because if there are scratches in that second leg, there are like 3 horses, I think, that I thought were playable off the AEs. So if any of those draw in, it could really shake up a ticket where it's not easy to find a single in this thing. I mean, you could really stretch to find a couple if you want to bullet home a bigger ticket. But I'm playing a 50-cent ticket. I think it's $72. So, I'm going at least 3 deep in every single leg and trying to just hit a price everywhere. So I think it's going to be an interesting sequence. It's definitely a tough sequence.
Yeah, oh, definitely, and we'll talk a little bit more when we get into the opening leg too. There was nowhere I felt you could single where you could be confident in that single. You could take a wild ass shot, but singling something up in this sequence, if you do it and you hit it, man, you deserve to get paid out just for that one.
Well, and the pick 5 is going to pay nice too. I mean, there's a pick 5 that starts right before this, and it's a maiden race that's a wide open as well. So it's going to be crazy. And Saratoga's third just went off, so you maybe see me peeking around the monitor here a little bit as we go into the first turn and see what happens.
Yeah, our old friend Smooth Like Butter is back in that 7th race at Del Mar on Saturday. Really loved to fade her. Best thing that I saw, I'm going to cheat a little bit because I haven't actually seen it yet. I was supposed to go pick it up before we had to call an audible on the times here. But this is the best thing that I was going to see, which is check that out.
That's a nice cake.
That's Mrs. Whoops, I lost it already. That's Mrs. Magic's birthday cake. So Mrs. Magic's birthday is today, and you can get a closer look at it here. She doesn't know it's an ice cream cake, and that's what she loves, and that's all she knows. So yeah. I'm gonna go pick it up from Baskin Robbins a little bit later. Great timing because we both had, I'd been on a diet for a little bit, and she decided a week ago she's gonna go diet, and now we're gonna have ice cream cake, so that you know how that works out really well. But yeah, it's her birthday today, so we're gonna we're both working, but we'll go get some dinner tonight and have some ice cream cake. And it was a really nice way to start her birthday when at 4:30 this morning there was a 4.2 magnitude earthquake that was just a few miles down the street from us was the epicenter. So woke up to the bed literally being shaken out of bed at 4:30, and then the aftershocks, and then there was another one a little bit later. So yeah, I'm been mainlining coffee this morning. Plus, I was working on the guide. The Whitney Stakes guide is coming out this weekend. I was working on that until about 10:30 last night. So if you see Mike distracted, it's because Saratoga's running. If you see me yawning a lot, it's because of that.
Yeah, the earthquake life in California is a real unique one. If you've never lived it, man, it is crazy. I mean, you just random times a day, shit just starts shaking, and you don't really know when it's going to stop or how bad it's going to be. And yeah, it's crazy when it wakes you up, and then you're just you're so disoriented, and then you kind of try and snap with it. I remember this one time that I was out in the kitchen and my wife was in the bed, and there was an earthquake, and she comes out, she goes, "Did a truck run into our apartment?" I'm like, wait, where did you come up with that? That's what causes the shaking. But yeah, it's just part of life out there, and so you kind of bounce back from it. But it is very hard to fall asleep again once that's happened, because your mind is like, we need to be awake. The things can go wrong here.
Well, especially because the aftershock took a few minutes. Usually it can come a little sooner than that. And then it was a few minute gap, and I was just drifting off, and then did it again. And I was like, God damn it, stop. Just do this in the middle of the day, in the middle of the podcast. I don't care. That actually would be really great. Don't do it when I'm sleeping. Come on.
Yeah, I'd love to have it on record just to see the reaction. Let's do it.
You just see all these hats right here, just shaking a little bit.
The magic is just still.
Yeah, pretty much.
I'm used to it. Been here.
Well, like I said, on today's show, we're going to be looking at the late pick 4 sequence at Del Mar on Saturday, August 1st. Let's get into it, Mike. Riders up. All right, kicking things off for the late pick 4 sequence at Del Mar on Saturday, August 1st. We're looking at race 8 on the card. This is the $100,000 California Thoroughbred Breeders Association, the CTBA stakes. There's a field of 7 juvenile Calbred fillies here. They're going 5.5 furlongs on the main track. We're doing this before the morning lines are out, so Mike is pretty good about guessing with the morning lines who's going to be the favorite. I'm going to go out on a limb and say it's probably going to be the 7. I'm So Anna. She's got a 66 buyer, which is what is that? 18 points better than anybody else has done in this field. That was for a maiden special weight win at Los Alamitos. I ended up going 3 deep, and I ended up losing a horse here that you're going to use because there was a horse in the last leg that I'm terrified might beat me. So I obviously used the 7. You got to love that 66 buyer. She wasn't my top choice, but she's got to be on the tickets at least, right?
Yeah, she is my top pick here. Look, when you have these type of races where you have trainers who don't run often at the track but come down for stakes races, specifically ones which are state bred, they believe that this horse fits. 2-year-olds, I mean, obviously you can have a lot of improvement from start to start, but this horse showed a bunch of improvements at second start, ran well against state bred horses, was favored against Open Company up at Golden Gate in his first start. Fast Anna is a very good sire, so fast. I mean, this is a horse bred to run early and run quickly early. I like the fact that the first half mile that race was 45-2 as well. If you look through the times, you'll see a lot of 46s and 47s for that first half mile. So running that first half mile in 45-2 and then being able to really open up at Los Al, I think was a really nice, impressive performance. Don't love the fact that it was Los Alamitos. Not really interested in taking too short of a price. I was hoping this wouldn't be the favorite. Just because of the connections, but I do expect it's going to be one of the more shorter prices on the board. And that was the only horse I had as a must-use here. I thought you had to include the 7. I'm going to go 3 deep. I am going to use 2 others. You use the 7. Yep. Who else did you include in your ticket?
So we both like the 6. Love Wins. This was my top choice. Luis Mendez is the trainer, so obviously that's someone that Mike and I are going to take a really hard look at. I don't love that Ruben doesn't have the mountain back. I'm a little ticked off about that, but yeah, what are you going to do? So here's when I talked about how the dirt track is playing slow and deep, and you kind of need to look for horses for me that are going to have the stamina even for 6 furlongs. I'm like, can they go 6.5, 7? Because I think that's what you're going to need in some of these spots. Love Wins broke her maiden at first asking. It was only 4.5 furlongs, but if you look at her pedigree, she's got a really good distance pedigree, and the fact that she won first out is more, I think, a testament to Mendez's training than her abilities, because Hainesfield is one of 2 horses by Speightstown who won at a 1.25 mile distance. Like Charlatan didn't even get the chance yet to do that. So you've got a horse, the sire is going to be bringing a lot of distance pedigree. And then her dam sire, War Chant, won going 9 furlongs. So there's plenty of 2-turn distance pedigree. So I don't think that the tiring track at Del Mar is going to be much of an issue. I talked about Ruben losing out. Abel Cedillo is a damn talented jockey. So you're not missing anything here with Abel Cedillo coming aboard. I really love the distance pedigree here that Love Wins has. And then 5.5, if she doesn't win, but it looks like she's still holding her own and maybe gets second, and I think the longer things go, you really would want to play this horse. So we both really love that 6 horse.
Yeah, I like the 6 as well. Her maiden breaking score was impressive. I had her singled that day. I'm actually more interested, and it's funny, you mentioned this horse going longer. Be interested to see what this horse does. I'm assuming that will not stay in the Mendez barn all that long. Generally, they leave the barn after the 2-year-old season. I'm interested to see this horse next year and what this horse is going to be able to do down the road, because I agree with you. I think this horse is bred for longer distances, which could play a factor here. I always just thought that this was the most impressive maiden breaking score, and that's really the main reason I put Love Wins in here. And I expect I thought Love Wins actually might be the favorite when I went through this thing. My second choice on the race is actually the 1 horse, Big Andy. Now, this was an interesting horse. First off, I like the fact that it was able to, it's still a maiden, but it's not really a maiden. It broke its maiden in its first start and then was taken down. So the horse can get by, which I thought is important to at least note. Came back in a maiden special weight. He ran here at Del Mar, which I like. Had a little bit of trouble, hopped at the start. It was kind of a mess of a race, but they still decided to put that horse back into this spot, which I think shows a lot of confidence. I like the fact that we've had a race over the track, but to me, the biggest thing is we get a huge jockey upgrade. We're going from Agapito Del Guillo, who is not a bad jockey. He's a journeyman jockey who does a good job, to the best jockey in California. So when I get Flavian Pratt aboard, I'm going to consider that a monster jump up. I think that more than makes up for the half-length distance between him and Righteously. And then the other thing that's kind of unique here is that because we still have that maiden, we're carrying 2 less pounds, which I think does matter a little bit in this. I expect Big Andy to show a little bit more speed. Mr. Big is one of the better sires in California. This is a state-bred race, so that to me is also important. And it was interesting for a race that is a 2-year-old race that's a short distance. There's really not that many horses that go to the lead, which I thought was kind of odd. You didn't see very many ones in that first quarter mile, first half mile. So I think Pratt with Big Andy is going to send from the rail. And I think if this horse breaks better, it broke slowly in both starts with Delegadillo. I think Pratt gets it out of the gate better. I think Pratt gets it to the lead. And I think he could be tough to catch if he gets there. So I'm hoping I can get a little bit of a price on Big Andy as well, just because it lost to Righteously, who's also in this race last time out. And it's a maiden in a stakes race, which generally don't get bet. So hopefully all those things come together and I can get 5 or 6 to 1 on a horse I think is awfully live on the inside.
If you can get 5 to 1, 6 to 1 on anything that Flavien Prat's touching, and it looks like it has even the slimmest chance in hell, you should probably play it. This is the race that is going to be most interesting for my ticket, the final ticket, because I want to wait until Saturday and listen to some of my my contacts and talk to some people about this horse.
Edge.
Because I wanted to use Big Andy. I ended up not using her, but there are a lot of great things going. You touched on some great points, but also the trainer, Blake Heap. A lot of people don't know this. Blake Heap is actually Wesley Ward's assistant and is based out here in California. And so takes care of, things for Wesley Ward out here. For example, when JoJo Air came out last weekend for the Daisy Cutter Handicap, that's a Wesley Ward trainee, but Blake Heap was taking care of her because he's assistant. Flavien Prat rode her. Flavien Prat rode that horse, got the win, and then now comes and rides for Blake Heap. And I'm like, God, there's an angle there too that it's just that last race. I thought, yes, she hopped at the start. She was 4 wide, but she didn't have that same turn of foot that she had in her debut race that got her the win that was taken away from her. She was, she was 7 legs back in fourth and close to win at Santa Anita, a track that wasn't playing very well to closers. And now at Del Mar, she couldn't get the job done. So that scared me a little bit. The fact that I'm not using Righteously at all pulled me off of her a little bit. And cost. I pulled Big Andy off at the last second because of a horse in the finale. The third horse I'm going to use is just to her outside, the number 2, Governor Got Even. And this is a horse that crushed me out of a stupid ticket, a really great ticket I had at Santa Anita. Initially I went into this going, I hate this horse. I effing hate this horse. I don't want anything. I hope this horse gets last. I kept watching that replay though, man. And that was a really good effort to be 4 wide at the top of the stretch and to close really strongly, which there isn't a whole lot of pace here, but I think the fact that she showed that she has a good turn of foot, she's been working strong. We haven't seen her since the end of May, but she has been working pretty strongly for Lisa Bernard, who was able to get Governor Got Even to fire fresh in her debut. And she's got the second best buyer. It's 48. It's a hell of a lot lower than 66, but 48 for her debut win. And now you could project some improvement here. I went with Governor Got Even just by the tiniest bit over Big Andy, but if you liked Big Andy here, I'm not going to talk you off of her.
Yeah, I didn't use Governor Got Even because that horse was 18 to 1 in that race. The barn's not. I mean, I don't know very much about the Bernard barn. It's not one I run to the windows to bet, that's for sure. And this is a spot where I thought you had a couple good horses come in here. I wouldn't be shocked if anyone wins this race because it's 2-year-old fillies who are early in their careers. And so you can see massive improvement. I mean, even the 3, Reign of Fire, Mendez put this horse in here with the 6 horse. Right. And then this
same
horse,
ownership. Yeah.
Same ownership, ran behind Big Andy. So maybe another angle is if the 6 comes out, maybe you have to play the 3. Why run 2 if one will do? Right. So I think you really got to take a look at this on race day and kind of decide which way you want to go, see how that's going. Maybe even look at the board. I mean, because if Big Andy gets hammered, Big Andy's going to win. Right. I mean, there's some of that as well, where the word's going to be out on one of these horses if there is going to be massive improvement that we haven't necessarily seen. And if the 7 gets hammered, the 7 probably will win. Because that's another horse where those horses wouldn't be getting hammered unless there's a tip out or someone knows something. So I would keep an eye on the board, specifically the will pays or the doubles going into this race to see kind of where that money's going to flow and then adjust my ticket accordingly.
Yep. Great point, Mike. We'll move on to the second leg of the late pick 4 sequence at Del Mar on Saturday, August 1st. Race 9 on the card. Field of 9 maiden fillies and mares 3 and up, plus 5 also eligibles. This is the race Mike and I were talking about in the intro, that if there's some scratches, this is going to really throw off our tickets in this race. Only 9 are going to end up running. This is a mile and a 16th turf race. And it's interesting because they have the shoot at Del Mar for mile and 16th, mile and an 8th turf races. If you're not a speed horse, they got an inside 1-2-3 draw. It's kind of like the Kentucky Derby where everybody breaks out of the gate and just and slams into everybody on the inside. So it's something to keep in mind when you're handicapping these races. I ended up going 3 deep here. You and I are 3 deep at the same 3 horses. So I will let you talk about what horse you want to talk about first, and we'll just go through the 3 of them.
All right, I'm going to start out with journal entry because this is the 4-horse. This is a horse that Mike does not usually play, and that's why I'm choosing this horse. If you've listened to the show long enough, you don't hear me play very often what I call quote-unquote career maidens. This horse has not won in 10 starts. That is a huge negative in my mind. I hate taking short prices on horses that haven't won in 9 or 10 starts, but I'm going to make some excuses for this horse. First off, they've gone on the turf. They've gone off the turf. This horse took over a year layoff to come back to the track, and they entered the horse after being in all maiden special weights into a maiden claimer 62.5 level. The horse ran so well that Carla Gaines then decided to move it up to maiden special weight for 2 races. That was a little aggressive. The horse isn't that good. Let's just be honest, right? But really fit well at the 62.5 level. We're going back to that 62.5 level. We're dropping 2 pounds, and we're picking up Hernandez, who we've talked about on the show a couple times already. You may not know him if you're Southern Cal, follow just the Southern Cal circuits, but he is a dominant jockey up north. He knows how to handle himself. I've been really impressed with how he's ridden so far at Del Mar. He's only got 6 wins, but he's 18 times second or third, so he's got other finishes that are close. So a little racing look, that's going to swing around. This horse had a tough start last time. The last time was a turf sprint. Draw a line through that. All of a sudden, we're third off a layoff. We're mid to high 60s buyers. That's what it's going to take to win. This is an Uncle Mo horse that costs $125,000, dropping in class. I mean, everything here fits. And I'm going to make an excuse for the fact that this horse is 0 for 10 and think it may have found the right field to beat today. Because to be honest, not a bunch of world beaters here at the 62.5 level. I'm just gonna throw that out there. So the 4 journal entry is my top pick. This was one where I thought maybe, maybe you could try and work out a single, but I'm not really interested in singling a horse that's 0 for 10. There's a couple others I like in here, but the 4 was my top pick.
Yeah, I agree. I love the 4 as well. Was my second choice here. Carla Gaines is notorious for horses first off the layoff, pass. Just take a hard pass. Second off the layoff, you better come with your money because she is, what did I say, 23%? I figured it out yesterday. 23% second off of a long layoff with horses. And so the fact that she returned this horse in a 62.5 level and he ran third and was only beaten a length and a half, first start off the layoff, I was like, whoa, that you don't see that from a Carla Gaines horse. So unfortunately, you had to wait a couple of months to play her again and kind of faltered. Main special weight, I'm with you, it was a little bit too high. Also, that turf sprint, those are some really good turf sprint fillies in that race. Moonhall Millie, Vegas Palm, those are some good turf sprinters in that main special weight. So all of that together, I liked the fact about that the 4 and 5 were the only 2 older horses here. And when there's a bunch of 3-year-olds and you're starting to go for a claiming tag, so you start to wonder how good are they really. I always bump them up a little bit. So I use the 4 for partly that reason as well. The 5 is my top choice as a 4-year-old Bellamy Road filly. I love Jeff Mullins on the turf. He gets Abel Cedillo. They're 26% with a really nice ROI together in the last couple of years. But Tagline, this 5 horse, she was second her last 2 efforts going a mile on the turf at Santa Anita. And she had Mike Smith, she had Abel Cedillo aboard. But her last 3 efforts, all on the turf, the third one was a mile and an eighth, 67 buyer, 69 buyer, 69 buyer. She now drops a little bit lower because she's taking, they're entering her for $55,000 tag. So they're getting 3 pounds off. So I think Mullins is Mullins is trying to experiment just a little bit. So she's carrying 121 pounds, the lowest weight of her career. And I think Mullins, he's very smart. I think he's going, we just need this one little tweak and that should get Tagline home. And so that is a big reason why Tagline was my top choice here. Why did you like Tagline?
This is just a classic Mike horse. It's second off the layoff, it's second off a layoff later in the 4-year-old season. This is when I see some of the biggest improvement from horses. I think it's properly spotted. We talked about that before, where you got to put the horse in the right spot. And honestly, I think the mile and 16th might be what this horse wants too. It's closing like a freight train in both those mile races where it ran second and just could not get home. So for me, I think the extra 16th of a mile here is going to make a big difference for Tagline. And I think that could end up being the reason that Tagline gets home. And so the 5 was actually my second pick, and I was 4-5. I also love the fact that Cedillo rides back. This is the 3rd time on the horse. You mentioned Smith has ridden the horse before, so all systems are go there. I think Tagline is a very, very usable horse. 3rd horse that I put in and we put in right out to the outside is a 6 horse, Better with Age. More Than Ready is one of my favorite turf sires, so we'll start out right there. You look at that last race. I'm not really sure why they tried 7 furlongs on the dirt, to be honest with you, but they did. So got one under the belt, and I actually think that was probably a setup to come out here. There's a ship and win promotion in California, so when
ship and win, baby.
Yeah, when you're shipping from out of state and you ship this type of horse in, who had never been at this low of a level. And then you get Rispoli up and you're getting back to the grass and you see that 68 Beyer finishing second, 3 back at Gulfstream Park. We're now second off the layoff later in the 3-year-old season. You're getting Rispoli, you're getting Ship and Win. Like, it just, the angles add up here that I'm not sure how you leave this horse off the ticket. And that really was my problem in a lot of these races. I got to that third horse and I'm like, I'm not leaving you off. So we're going to just play a bigger 50-cent ticket. So I ended up going 4, 5, 6 here. I like the 4 the most. I think the 5 is going to be the favorite. I'm going to like the price on the 6 the most, but I think you really have to use all 3.
I agree with you. And Phil D'Amato, Richard Baltas, Peter Miller, when you see them bringing horses from Kentucky, especially to Del Mar for that Ship and Win bonus, that was a big angle last year. Yep. And it's something that I noticed as well. I really wanted to use the 7 Looking So Lucky, and if 4, 5, or 6 get scratched, this is going to be the first horse that I put in. And it doesn't really look great on paper, but if you figure the sprint was just to get her ready, Looking So Lucky, Looking at Lucky is 12% turf route sire, and you're getting first-time Lasix, and this is a very small barn that owned, bred, and trains this horse. And again, was in that same race where Moonhall, Millie, Vegas, Palm were racing, sprinting, and we like journal entry. We figured that was, scratch that. It was just a little bit of a warm-up prep. That was, if you were just knocking the dust off, Brice Blanc is a criminally underrated turf rider. He doesn't have the percentages to show how talented he is. So I wanted to use Looking So Lucky, not going to make the ticket on the class drop. But did you kind of like Looking So Lucky? Didn't even consider her? Where'd you fall there?
I thought she was playable. She wouldn't have been the next in for me. Del Mar Drama probably would have, just because of the speed angle and the fact that we're getting back onto turf after turf sprinting. Shackelford should be able to handle the mile. To me, the real question is, does Rogan Goes Hollywood get into the race? It's one of the ELSA eligibles. Pratt would be up. This horse, I think, would it has to make your ticket if it draws in, because it could end up being a lone speed horse with Pratt going over the turf here. So the Rogan Goes Hollywood, I think, is one, if it gets in, is one you almost have to include.
We'll move on to the third leg of the late pick 4 sequence at Del Mar on Saturday, August 1st. This is the big premier event of the week. Well, at least of Saturday. We'll see what Sunday's card looks like. But on Saturday, it's the Grade 1 $250,000 Bing Crosby Stakes. This is a Breeders' Cup win and your in event for the sprint. Field of 9 males, because McKinsey is going to scratch. Field of 9 males, 3 and up, going 6 furlongs on the dirt. McKinsey was going to be the favorite, right? Without McKinsey as the favorite, I don't know. Somebody's gonna take it. Probably not a horse that I played, because I think I went a little crazy in this race. Where'd you go on top?
Well, Collusion Illusion is 2-1 overseas right now. Law Abiding Citizen 4.5 to 1. Fashionably Fast 6. Lexingtonian 7. Desert Law 8.5. Wildman Jack 10 to 1. Any Port Storm?
Any Port in a Storm. Yeah.
There it is. 11 to 1. Heartwood 14 to 1. And PR Radio Star 16 to 1. I ended up.
Collusion Illusion, the lone 3-year-old in this field taking on Elders, is the favorite. The
favorite and a defensive use for me. I mean, I think Collusion Illusion is going to go off the favorite. I think you kind of get a little bit of the hype train rolling here. Only time it faced Elders, beat a horse named Tiger Dad, who does have some other form in with other horses in this race. But it needs a buyer jump. Yes. And it's facing Olders. And that's a combination where I'm not overly interested in really taking too short of a price. And so I think the 2-1 number is probably going to be high. I think this horse goes off at 7 to 5, 8 to 5. And I wouldn't be shocked if the horse wins. But that's a defensive use for me. And I think it's a tough enough sequence that you don't want to leave that horse out. But for me, I'm going to go to the inside and take Lexingtonian on top here. This is a 4-year-old who improved in Churchill last time out. I thought that was a very good race. Has been running against Whitmore, Engage, Hall Creek Hustle, Legends of War, Stubbins, a lot of very good horses over a lot of different surfaces. Every now and then you're seeing races from this horse that would win it. You're going to get a nice trip with Drayden Van Dyke here. I assume this horse is going to be sitting closer to the rail, or close on the rail, being able to kind of stalk the pace, which I think is going to be pretty hot in this spot, and get a dream trip. If Lexingtonian's good enough, Lexingtonian can win. And this horse was in the Pletcher barn, was a touted sprinter. We know there's talent, and you're consistently seeing those buyers slowly tick up throughout the year. So this is the first time Lexingtonian's going to take a Grade 1 shot, but I feel like this is a good spot for this horse. I think it'll sit the trip, and I think you're going to get a number on it. I believe I just rattled it off at 7 to 1. I think it's going to actually go off higher than that, because I think there's a couple of horses in here that are going to get a little more love, because Lexingtonian's another one that needs to improve. Other must-use horse for me here was the 8 horse, right to the inside of Collusion Illusion. That's Wildman Jack. This horse is fast. I mean, let's just be honest. This horse is very fast. And if this horse decides to take the dirt at all, and it should with Golden Sense into Mischief on the top side, look out. And then you got that 46 and 1/2 work at Del Mar. So I'm thinking maybe he likes the Del Mar dirt a little bit. That's what we're running over here. I mean, I'm not willing to let Wildman Jack beat me. And the fact that the price right now overseas is all the way at 10-1, I think is ridiculous. So 1 and 8 are the two must uses for me. I'll be using the 9 Collusion Illusion defensively. I got one more in here. Where are you going, Magic?
Well, we agree that Collusion Illusion is a defensive use, and that's where it stops. Listen, Lexitonian was in the Vanderbilt last weekend, scratched out of it at the gate. Lexitonian was 30-1, and that was a much, much harder field. I think there's actually going to be a couple of Breeders' Cup Sprint contenders out of that race. Unless Collusion Illusion wins this, I'm not so sure that we're going to see a Breeders' Cup strong challenger come out of this field.
Yeah, I would be surprised. It's one of the reasons I'm swinging.
Yeah, it's a much easier spot. Lexitonian is the son of Spitestown. This horse doesn't. I just don't like Lexitonian. I don't think I've ever once picked Lexitonian to win a race, and he just isn't somebody that wows me. You made all great points. This just isn't a horse that I can use here, but it is definitely a much softer spot than what you saw last time out. The 8 Wildman Jack. I tried hard to put him in here, and I didn't. But if there's a scratch, or if I readjust my ticket in that opening leg, the Philly Stakes, Wildman Jack's going to be the first one I try and fit into it.
I can't wait to hear who you have. You're not including either of those two.
Well, so I've got 2 other horses.
Law-abiding citizen.
No, it's not law-abiding citizen. Okay. Law-abiding citizen needs a mile or 7 furlongs. I'm going with a pair of Calbreds that are both owned by Harris Farms. Like I said, I think I went a little nuts here. My top choice is the 3 Desert Law. We talked before earlier about Carla Gaines second off, man. That's when you come running. This horse is second off the layoff. And look what happened last year. Second off the layoff, wins the Thor's Echo Stakes by 6 1/4 lengths, career best Hunter Buyer. Went from there straight to the Bing Crosby. Thor's Echo, by the way, first time this horse ever tried stakes company, wins dominantly, goes straight to the Bing Crosby and missed to Sistron by 1/2 length, who Sistron tailed off this year. But Sistron at that time, man, he was on the West Coast. He was a cooking sprinter. So that was a really game effort. We don't see him again until this year's Thor's Echo. I was against him in that race, specifically because it was Carla Gaines first off with long layoff. He showed good effort, good energy at the end there, and now we're getting second off the layoff. A little bit of a jockey drop from Flavian Prat to Victor Espinoza, but the second off the layoff angle, the fact that he just missed winning this last year by a 1/2 length, he loves this distance. He's got 4 wins from 10 starts, 8 times on the board. I loved Desert Law here. And for the Breeders' Cup preview, I wrote all about Desert Law because I really am that excited about seeing him run in this spot.
Okay. I'm not as confident in Desert Law in this spot. I'm not going to talk you off it because you're going to get a price on Desert Law. At least you should. And the second off the Gaines layoff definitely makes sense. And the race last year will put him right in contention here, right? Yep. But for me, I'd straight to some other areas. But the horse should get a trip. I mean, that's the other piece of it. I just don't love the fact that Pratt didn't ride it back. And
I think that's a lot more of how much he loves Collusion Illusion because not to go back to that, but if you look at his 4 sprints, he's undefeated, and Flavian Prat and Mark Glad have always lauded that horse. So they really think that he's got a huge future, even if he doesn't win this race.
Well, and this is one of the horses where they have that like-to-like horse, right? So Collusion Illusion beat Tiger's Dad 2 back by 3 lengths off the layoff, off the bench, first time out as a 3-year-old. And first time off the bench, you had Desert Law come out and lose by 2 lengths to Tiger Dad. So there's a 5-length difference between the 2 horses. And that's a concern to me right there. I'm not sure how Desert Law is going to be able to flip those 5 lengths. And if that's the case, then I feel like I have Desert Law covered with Collusion Illusion, if that makes sense. That's why I've kind of avoided from using this horse on ticket. I didn't want to use a bullet on a horse that I thought was covered by the chalk that I'm very reluctantly doing slowly and then swallowing. So, that was kind of my reason to stay away from Desert Law. The other horse that made in my ticket is your horse. You have Fastly Fast, right?
Yep.
6 horse? Yeah. There we go. We got some agreement. This horse run really well. I'm not sure why people are knocking this horse. What has this horse done wrong? It's 1 and 1 and 1 and 1 and then lost to Mackenzie going 7 furlongs. There's nothing wrong with that. Horse is 3 for 5 of the distance, 3 for 5 at Del Mar. And I think you're going to get a number on this horse because the buyers don't stack up with everybody else, but we're getting second off a layoff later in the 5-year-old season. We need a little bit of improvement, sure, but tell me why Fastly Fast can't win. I mean, no one's been able to answer that question with me yet.
No, and I'm not going to argue with you because I'm with you. I think, by the way, that 7 furlong win or second place effort behind McKenzie. I mean, nobody was catching McKenzie, and McKenzie was cruising, and Fast was working hard to keep up. But you're going to have a little bit of a stamina with this deep track, and that last work, 47-2 on July 26th to prep for this race. Are you kidding me? That is so
Fast.
fast. That is beyond fashionably fast. So, especially if Wildman Jack doesn't take to the dirt, which I agree with you, he should. He's a son of 2-time dirt mile winner, Golden Sense. But I think this horse is going to be right up there pushing for the lead, and I think he's going to be able to handle the distance. Wildman Jack's been running a little bit shorter, and especially on turf. So I have some questions there. You're also fashionably fast, 7 for 14 when he gets a fast dirt course. Yes, he's been facing state breds, but I mean, like, he was cruising in the state bred. Like, he just win, like you said, Mike. And then to make his first start back off a layoff and be second to McKinsey in the triple bend at 7, now he cuts back. The sharp works, man. I love this.
Well, to me, it's like the only horse that's been facing really good horses is Wildman Jack, and he hasn't been doing it on the dirt. I mean, that's the thing with this field. I mean, I talked about this when Tacitus won his race. That field is not the normal grade 1 field. This is not a grade 1 field. I'm sorry, it's not, and you alluded to it by saying, hey, maybe one of them goes to the Breeders' Cup. This is just not a bunch of world beaters for this level. So that means that the state bred doesn't make as big of a difference in my mind. You're not taking as big of a jump up in class from state bred into this race because there's just not that much in this race. That's not fair. There's a lot of good horses in this race. There's not any like grade 1, oh my God, how are we going to beat that horses in this race? And so you could have, and the consistency is also a little question on a couple of these. So you could have an A+ game from some of these random horses that get it done because, these 2 other horses didn't run an A+ and this guy ran a B+. Like there's no one's B- game that wins this outright. So because of that, there's a lot of different angles you can go for. And it also means that the class to me isn't as big of an issue.
I agree with you on that. We'll move on to the 4th and final leg of the late pick 4 sequence at Del Mar on Saturday, August 1st. Looking at race 11 on the card, field of 10 Calbred fillies and mares 3 and up, plus 1 also eligible. Maiden special weights going a mile straight on the turf course here. I went 4 deep, and this is the one where I just kept working on the ticket until I could get this 4th horse in here. So I hope she runs worth a damn, because otherwise I'm going to feel like an idiot. Where are you going on top here?
I went to the inside here, which is not something I love to do when we're going a mile with maidens on the turf. But the one horse to me just looks like it's ready to run a big time effort. If you go back and you watch that race for Cheerful Charm, Dan Blacker had this horse seemingly pretty good to go. And I don't really generally see Dan Blacker as a first time out winner. Second out, he usually runs better. That horse had trouble too. Go back and watch that race. It was steadied a couple times. Didn't really have a bid. It was starting to run on and then kind of fell back. It's just a very choppy race. I like the fact that Blacker takes that horse and brings it back in the maiden special weight level, brings it back at a mile. Second start, I'm expecting improvement. We got a 4-year-old here, facing some 3-year-olds. You get Flavian Pratt aboard. All of these things point to having a very, very good chance at winning this race. So Cheerful Charm, the one horse, was my pick for all of those reasons. The other must use for me was the 2, Nina and Fuego. Right to the outside. Tim Yakteen, 14% first out, but $2.46 ROI. You get Rispoli up first out here. Mucho Macho Man fires on either surface. And there's just not a ton in this race. And so when you look through the workouts and you see a lot of those middling workouts, but then if you go back, you see 1 or 2 where they're kind of impressive. I like the 101 over the Del Mar Dirt, the 1 minute flat workout over the Santa Anita Dirt out of a gate. Then right before that, there's a 47-4 workout out of a gate. So he showed more speed out of a gate than anything else, which tells me that this trainer isn't working him hard in the other works. I think there might be some talent here. I like the fact that Rispoli takes the call. So I'm going to end up with the 1 and the 2 here as my 2 must-use horses in this race.
Well, I agree with you on the 1. And you're right about that race. I watched that replay, and this is why it's important. We've talked about this before. If you see in the notes where it says, it's like Twitter, you can only use X many characters on these things. So if you see this as steady to 3.5, go back a while. That horse went all the way back to next to last, went pushing through the turn, did a great job, and just at that point was out of gas because Rispoli slammed on the brakes so hard. Look at that July 29th work, man. 35-4. Dan Blacker's got her ready to fire. Yep. So I'm excited about here. I'm against Nina and Fuego because Mucho Macho Man, you're right, fires on both surfaces. Is a 12% turf route sire. 0 for 30 with first-time starters, ages 3 and up. 0 for 30. So that's the one time he doesn't fire as a sire. So
yeah, I don't care. I don't care. No, it's because that stat is so skewed. Who are the trainers in those 30? Right. Who, come on, over 3-year-old on the turf, 1 sire going 2 turns. Give me on a Thursday when it's raining, but there's been sun for 2 hours before then. Come on.
To your credit and to Tim Yakteen's credit, he's actually he's 1 for 7 with horses debuting at least a mile, which is a very difficult thing to get any horse ready to do. So Nina and Fago, if I was able to go really deep here, I would use her. Just didn't make my ticket. My top choice is one that you also did you use? I can't even tell. You did use. No, you didn't. The 9 on Mars. I'm a little surprised you didn't use on Mars here, and I'd be curious to hear your reason. She's very talented. Maybe you didn't use her because, man, does she loves to cause her own problems. At every race, she screws up the start. She's ranked. She's pulling. She's all over the place. And yet the last 2 times when she was going a mile on the turf, Mike Smith, he got her up there. And Mike Smith wouldn't keep picking up this stupid mount if he didn't think he could get this horse to settle. Well, he got her up for third, got for second when she was running like an idiot around the course early. She's gonna. I don't know if she's gonna be the favorite. She'll probably be second choice if she's not. So she's definitely burned a lot of money. But I've played her each of her last 2 starts. I'm gonna play her again here. Phil D'Amato on the turf, and I know she's the 3-year-old, but her last 2 races were against 3-and-up company. So I'm gonna take a shot with her at. Hopefully that she can finally figure out how to 6 to 5 overseas. Okay. Oh, yeah. So hopefully she's not going to, we just need her to not cause her own stupid trouble. That's her biggest knock for me.
It's probably the most talented horse.
Yes.
But at some point I'm just, no, thank you. And that's really all it is for me. I mean, it's this horse is burn money. If I was outside and I had a lighter and $1, I'd go show you a live picture to look at. It's just brutal, man. It's brutal. This horse doesn't want to win, and I'm not willing to take this. The reason why I think this horse going off at 6 to 5 is you look at the price in the last 2, even money, 3 to 2. I don't see how this horse doesn't get bet again. It's still Mike Smith. It's still Phil D'Amato. And last time was the race it should have won. I mean, to me, that is really the biggest thing. Okay, when you're an even money favorite in a field of 9, you really should have been able to win that race. And the horse not only didn't win, wasn't close to winning, never really looked like it was going to win. And so I'm not willing to just take a short price on this horse again, especially when I have other horses in the race that I do think are live in this spot. So I'm gonna leave on Mars off. And this was one of those where it's like, do you use it defensively or do I just chuck? And I decided to chuck this one and use Collusion Illusion defensively.
So we do have agreement on 2 horses. The one who we talked about, also the 5, Bella Chica. This is a daughter of City Zip, 4-year-old. Mike Pipey is a very talented trainer. Adds the blinkers here. Drayden Van Dyke was aboard her first 2 starts, then went to Umberto Respoolie. That last race, I watched the replay. I don't know what. She just didn't pick up her feet, and I think she just had one of those days where it's just nothing. Maybe she wasn't feeling well. It didn't. If you would scratch that out and look at her other starts, she's slowly starting to progress. She's going to need a little bit more of a buyer push here, but Drayden picking back up the mount, I like. He's 21% with a 357 ROI with Mike Pipey. Talk about why you liked Bella Chica.
I mean, for all the same reasons. The 2 sprints to a route, adding blinkers, those are all things that I like. Drayden gets back aboard. He's ridden this horse a couple times, so he does know the horse pretty well in that sense. I didn't see a ton of speed in here, and this is one of those horses that I think might be your sneaky speed. This horse has never been on the lead before, but we've got a 96 early pace form from Timeform US, and we're stretching out from sprints to routes, which means this horse is 21-4, 22-1 opening quarters are probably fast enough to get on the lead. Additionally, I'm a sucker for a City Zip on the turf, and this is a City Zip horse that I generally do like turf sprinting more, but City Zips are sneaky good turf routing, especially when they get to the front. So I think Bella Chica could be the horse that ends up wiring this field, and that was one of the main reasons that I went to the horse.
Yeah, that's a great point. The last one that I'm going to use, this is why I structured my ticket. I had to put the 3, Ride Sally Ride, on my ticket. And, 8 races, still hasn't broken the maiden. Not a trainer that I trust. But I love the fact that Edwin Maldonado is getting aboard. And this horse, 2 sprints to a route. Maldonado's a very aggressive jockey, and I expect him to get her out of the gate. Queen's Becca and Jane won her most recent start. Queen's Becca and Jane came back to finish second last weekend in the Calbred allowance race. So also Creative Cause as a sire, 13% in turf route races. Really strong angle for Creative Cause. Okay, I don't like the trainer. There's nothing about this trainer whatsoever that says you should even think about using this horse. But it's Maldonado. It's 2 sprints to a route. And I'm hoping that, this will be the second time routing. It hasn't been for, several months. But I feel like routing is what this horse needs. And she seems to be coming into form as a 3-year-old now. I'm just going to take a shot with her. I had to work my tickets to put her on here because I didn't want her to beat me.
Yeah, this was I was between the 3 and the 5 as my 2 sprints to a route horse, because it's an angle that I really like, especially when you're on the turf and you're stretching out. So it was those 2 that I ended up going with Bella Chica, who beat her 2 back. I mean, That was the main reason. That and the fact I think she's just a little bit faster. She was ahead of her in that race as well. They're both coming out of the same race last time. But Belichick just didn't run a lick in that last race. I'm hoping that you're going to see the improvement here. The other horse I'm going to use is Get 'em Tiger. And this one was another one where I'm trying to figure out why this horse is here. It was at Golden Gate. It ran at Pleasanton. Quinn Howey has one start at Del Mar, but is a 21% trainer everywhere else. Cedillo picks up the mount. So you have a small barn, big-time jockey, and the small barn, it's small barn at Del Mar, but a barn that is successful elsewhere that's bringing this horse down. You're getting Smiling Tiger. This is another 2 sprints to a route horse who ran well over the synthetic, which should translate well over to the turf course. I'm hoping I get a price here, too. I'm going to be interested to see what the morning line comes out on Get 'em Tiger, but I think this is another one that kind of fits into this scenario of, okay, you got a couple horses that are going to be up front. This horse should be able to be one of the fastest coming home. I think Get 'em Tiger will sit a nice trip right behind it, be able to stalk and hopefully close into it. So I'm going to end up with 1, 2, 5, 6 in this spot. Did you consider the 6 at all, or was that just a chuck for you?
It was a chuck. I've been burned more times than I'd care to admit on Smiling Tiger horses routing. Smiling Tiger was a really talented sprinter. Smiling Tiger can't throw a router sometimes to save his life. So I don't have any faith that this horse will be able to get the distance. Great angles that you talked about, and especially Cedillo picking it up for a small, talented barn. It's just Smiling Tiger as a 2-turn sire, man. I'm like, oof, chuck it. It's 5% routing on either surface.
Smiles
on all 3 surfaces.
Frowns on the second one.
All right, that's going to do it for this. Damn it, let me start that over again. This is why you watch live, because once in a while, Jared did it on Blinkers Off. That made me really happy. All right. Thank you so much for going through the late pick 4 sequence with Mike and I. We'll go ahead and give it our tickets one last time. And if you're watching live, as I always say, hey, guess what? Look straight down at the bottom. Boom, there you go. I'm going to start off. I'm going 267 with 456 with 369 with 1359. $54 ticket for 50 cents. Definitely could go a lot deeper. Mr. Samich, what you got?
I'm going to play a 50-cent ticket as well. I'm going to go 167 with 456 with 1689 with 1256 for 50 cents. That's $72. And it looks like we're going to get that second leg home. I like us both being 456 there.
Yeah.
That was looking good.
Yeah, that was a very strong. As long as there's no scratches. If there's scratches, we're both screwed.
Yeah,
we're just gonna be like the Nile, just split. Over at racenews.com, guess what? The Inside Track wagering guide for the Whitney Stakes is available. I was up till late last night putting it together. Aaron Halterman has been dealing with a little bit of physical pain, and he powered through it. I'm not going to say this was the best one that he's ever done before it got to me, just because there were a couple of races where. Let's just say he was talking about some Monmouth Park horses that weren't exactly racing at Saratoga.
Forgot to hit the delete button a couple times, huh?
The pain meds messed him up. I totally understand. No, it's a really great product though, and if you haven't gotten the guide since we started doing it, since the pandemic started, it's not just the stakes races, which is what you used to do, but Aaron gives you his top 4 picks and analysis for every single race. And this almost was the best thing that I saw. I can't believe I forgot to mention earlier. The racing dudes are presenting one of the races. Race 8 is the last one before the all stakes pick 4 there, and it's presented by Racing Dudes. I'm like, how freaking cool is that? That's awesome, man.
It's pretty incredible. I'm bummed. Slim and I are up here, and we can't even present the trophy. Come on, what's up with that? No love from the toga.
Yeah, sorry about that. It was, but it's so cool. So
it is very cool.
Go to racenews.com. It's available for purchase right now. Racenews.com/handicapping-products, and you can pick that up today. It's going to be a lot of fun this weekend. The Clement Hirsch is on Sunday. You've got 2 more Breeders' Cup winning your ins Saturday at Saratoga. Real quick, do you have a pick for the Whitney?
Yeah,
you were so excited about it too.
I'm trying to remember who it was because I made the pick for the America's Best Racing thing that I do. Who was it? Oh, I think I talked out with Tom's Tot. Yeah. I unfortunately the Whitney and the Bezo. I think both Tom's Tot and Midnight Bezo are going to be really tough to beat this weekend.
Didn't we talk about this like 4.5, 5 weeks ago at Churchill Downs when it was the Fleur de Lis and the Stephen Foster?
It's rinse and repeat. I mean,
those were 2 of the best performances we've seen on dirt from anyone all year.
And I don't see any way that the race shapes really hinder their chance at winning. I mean, because when you see those type of horses, the way they lose is that the pace is against them, or there's no pace at all, or whatever it is. I don't see any race shape forming up that really makes either of these horses hindered. And they're also, I mean, this is kind of why they're so good. They're versatile. I mean, Midnight Bisou has been a little bit closer to the pace when she needs to be. She's been way back when she needs to be. Tom's Attack can be on the lead, be off the lead. I mean, so when you have versatile horses, it makes it a lot easier, a lot harder to beat them, a lot easier for them to get home at short prices.
Yeah, I agree. Also, quick congrats to Sean. Sean Alvarez, our buddy, he's watching. He's all excited about Aloha Dreamer winning. He owns a piece of her, and she smoked him at Lone Star Park yesterday. So, yeah, she looked incredible. And Sean said, "Is it too late to get in the Kentucky Oaks?" So I said, "Well, send her to Saratoga, see what you can do in the Alabama."
There you go.
That's going to do it for this episode of the Magic Mike Show. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll be back on Monday to talk about things. But until then, I'm Magic.
And I'm Mike.
We'll see you next time. And once again, Magic with the freaking, come on, Magic, get it together here.
Come on, man.
Nothing ready. Come on. You know what it is? I'm all focused on the fact that I got to go pick up an ice cream cake. That's what it is.
There you go. Yeah.
Cool. All right. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time.
The Magic Mike Show, where you hear the experts speak. The Magic Mike Show. Tune into the show every week. The Magic Mike Show. You can trust the show is the bomb because it's being brought to you by RacingDudes.com.